Alright, I thought this could be a fun idea for a video. So last year I made 7 winners and 7 losers of the NFL draft following the draft, and I figured why not make a video. I could make a video reacting to the positives, but that's not as fun. If I was like, I thought this team would be better than it was, it's always more fun when it's like I thought this team would stink and they were actually good. That way the fan base of that team can make fun of me, all of that good stuff. So yeah, maybe I'll do it the other way if this video does well, but I figured this could be a fun video to react to my previous video. I'm going to kind of edit it around. I'm not going to show the whole previous video, but kind of the 7 losers of the draft, what my thoughts were on it. Starting off with the Atlanta Falcons as a loser, in my opinion, they are one of the 7 losers. I just didn't love the Bijan Robinson pick because I don't think you should take a running back with pick number 8. That's just yeah. I mean, that's obviously we knew that was coming, right? With Atlanta, and it's one of those things where it's like, how do you decide who was right or who was wrong? Because we all knew Bijan would be very good. I would sit here and say I think that was a correct take by me because the Falcons were not ready to be fully competitive. I was kind of critical of them for not taking a quarterback as well. So I think that is fair and reasonable in hindsight. But at the same time, you could certainly say, well, they got a good player at number 8, so maybe I'm being too hard on them. Again, it just comes down to, do you think how much do you value running backs is kind of the dilemma, which we're just going to argue with forever, and I have a feeling they will not be the only team on this list where we have that discussion about. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys who, I don't know if they're massive losers. And this is where things get weird, where it's like, I want to make, every year I do this, 7 winners, 7 losers, 7 overrated, 7 underrated. There's typically not 7 teams that I'm like, they did a disastrous draft. Like, I like Mazi Smith. I do think it's a bit of a reach, though. So it's not like a pick I'm blown away by that saved the draft or anything. And then the Luke Schoonmaker pick was just weird at 58, projected to go 110. And they just had some weird picks. Like, DeMarvin Overshown, I thought was just a bit of a reach. I thought really kind of all of their selections were just a bit of a reach. I mean, you look at Okay, well, I think I can cut it off there. Yeah, it's also kind of funny because I kind of defended the Mazi Smith move a little bit, and that feels like their worst one. So I was right about them being a loser. I think that maybe the logic wasn't fully sound there. But yeah, I think that's, again, if you reach on a lot of players, more often than not going to end up working out too well. Luckily, the Cowboys made up for it with their incredible free agency they just had, so they got that going for them. We then have the Jets. The Jets are a very fascinating team on this loss list because, the later picks didn't really move the needle for me too much one way or the other. Okay, listen, like the Zaire Barnes selection, getting the 528th ranked player at pick 184 isn't my favorite, but I'm not going to really put them on the winners or losers category based on what you do at 184 typically. Again, the Joe Tippmann pick was fine. I thought was maybe a tad of a reach, but I thought was fine. Some people probably like that pick a lot. Carter Warren, kind of same thing, a little bit of a reach there. Drafted him at 120, was projected to go 190. And then Will McDonald, another one that was a reach for me. Obviously, that's the big one. Selected at 15, was projected to go 34, and he just wasn't my favorite prospect to begin with. So even as an early second round grade, I was a bit wary on that. Yeah, and it's one that it's weird where I feel like usually when you put a team on the worst list, everyone gets mad at you and says, of that fan base, like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a great draft because of X, Y, and Z. When I put the Jets on there, I think Jets fans in the comments were like, yeah, we screwed that up. That was a weird pick, the Will McDonald stuff. So that was kind of my critique, was I thought that it was a fine draft other than that, but that was a criticism I had. Here's one that is another bunch of reaches, the Detroit Lions, who, Jahmyr Gibbs, I do have to say, was projected to go in the first round. He was projected to go 29th. That was his, where the consensus big board had him going. So it's not like he wasn't supposed to be a hyped up running back or anything. But at number 12, I mean, you already know how I felt about Bijan Robinson, selecting him at number 8. At least for him, I feel like he has the potential to be a game-changing running back. And I want to be clear, I think Gibbs is going to be a really good running back for them. I think he's going to really help out the roster. But I don't love his blocking, which is a bit of an issue when I don't feel like you're a complete running back and you're getting selected at 12. Maybe they feel like they can fix it. I don't know. But that is a concern for me. It's running back value. They just don't have a ton of value at pick number 12, in my opinion. This is the move you make when you're trying to compete right now. they're trying to compete right now. That's what they're doing. Also, Jack Campbell at pick 18, who I like. I had a first-round grade on. I'm less mad about the Jack Campbell pick. I really am. It's a bit of a reach, but it's a position of need. Teams make Jack Campbell-type selections a pretty good amount, in this draft class. Like to me, this and like the Will McDonald one, I kind of like the Campbell pick better than the Will McDonald pick, to be honest. But it's just the Lions already kind of got some head scratched with the Jahmyr Gibbs pick at 12, so now it kind of became a thing. I also didn't get why they got Sam Laporta over Michael Mayer. Personally, I like Mayer better. Some people like Laporta better, so I guess they're one of them, clearly.
Nailed it. All right. Well, it wasn't a terrible job by me in valuation until that last part where I then said that I preferred like Sam Laporta. What are you doing there? Okay, and then Sam Laporta has like one of the best rookie tight end seasons we've seen. Hey, draft evaluation is hard. In fairness to me, a little bit. I didn't do like a full deep dive into Sam Laporta's game, so that's maybe I would have seen something, but probably not. It's part of why. Hey, sometimes going against the big board is a good thing. I believe I bring up Brian Branch at some point. I remember I was high on him. I don't know what I'm about to say, so we'll see.
But that was a bit of a surprise. Another reach on the consensus big board. The Hendon Hooker pick was interesting to me. I'm not mad at the Hendon Hooker pick. I'm just a little confused about what the plan is there. Maybe it's just to get a backup in the building with pick 68. I think I kind of like that pick, actually. And I love the Brian Branch pick. So this was not a disastrous draft by any means. I mean, they got 5 players who could someday be contributors, one of them at the quarterback position. That's not a terrible draft, but they had so much draft capital, they probably should have gotten more out of this draft class. I think both can be true, again.
Yeah, and I don't fully disagree with that last part either. I mean, obviously, my take on Laporta is just it was a bad take. I mean, it is what it is. I swing and a miss there. I was wrong. But the other stuff of like, could they have gotten more out of maybe the top 2 picks than they got? Campbell didn't end up doing a lot, which again, kind of funny. I defended that pick a little bit. It was like a half-hearted defense, but it was still a defense of that pick, and that ended up not working out incredibly well. So is that one of those things that you look? I mean, it's just like I think it's fair to say maybe they could have gotten more value than the draft capital they had, but also they did have a lot. They did get a lot of good players and were able to make it to the conference championship. So clearly, it was I don't think every take I said in that segment was wrong, but certainly a chunk of them were.
The Packers, 2 teams left on the losers. Number 6, and again, these are in no particular order. The Packers I did put on here. I'm just not a crazy Lucas Van Ness fan. I originally went through the list and got my 7 losers, and they weren't on the initial list, but I didn't have 7, so I had to pick someone else, and so I went with the Packers to include to the list. There's a chance that this draft actually ends up being okay. Like, this is a pretty Packers draft. My video about this one was entitled A Very Packers Draft, because that's kind of how it felt. They went after very Packers-type players, but those just aren't necessarily the players I would go after. It's maybe a team-building philosophy strategy, but there were just some maybe some slight L's in the draft selection, like the Luke Musgrave and Jaden Reed selections both, I felt like were slight reaches. Like Tucker Kraft is fine. He's not saving the draft. He's not ruining it for me. Feels like he's fine. And I also really thought that the Sean Clifford pick was essentially just lighting a pick on fire as someone who's supposed to be a backup quarterback. I get it. They need a backup quarterback. But I don't, projected to go 423rd on the consensus big board. They got him at 149. I just didn't really love that, and I don't know how many game changers they got. Also drafted a kicker, which is usually a bad idea. So just some question marks here in this draft class for me. Although, again, I do think that there's a couple players who should be good. Lucas Van Ness, I'm just not a huge fan of. I did not have a first-round grade on him. They got him at 13, but was 15th on the consensus big board, so I'm not going to crush it because other people also really liked him. But for me, it's one of my opinions.
Yeah, so, okay. Again, I think some bad takes there, a little bit of those, mid-round skill players that the Packers got ended up actually being a real needle mover, so I think they ended up having a pretty decent draft. I was kind of, Lucas Van Ness, I think it's weird. He showed flashes. I want to see him more. I think as of right now, I'm not banking on Lucas Van Ness being like a star player, so I think that's a take that I still feel okay about. So I'm not mad at that, but definitely the, some of those mid-round guys that I were kind of saying weren't really needle movers or even was kind of colder on ended up hitting. Again, drafting a kicker is fine. Whatever. Those were kind of nitpicks towards the end into, the drafting a backup quarterback who's not supposed to be very good. Also a bit of a nitpick there. The real critiques was really the Van Ness pick. And as I said, it wasn't a draft I hated, just one that I had to have 7 losers, so they were kind of, on the list because of it.
7 losses. Listen, I don't think this is a terrible draft. The Bears are also here. Bears picked at, I'm putting it there. The Bears are also here. Bears picked at, listen, I don't think this is a terrible draft either. Them and the Packers both, I kind of feel like, are maybe slight L's in this one because I thought they had a few a few reaches, not by massive amounts, but, they had 4 picks in the top 100. Each one of those picks, the player they got, they drafted before the consensus big board expected them to go. Darnell Wright projected to go 19th. They picked him at 10. Teams reach for tackles, but that to me felt like they were drafting for need, which they have so many holes. I don't think that's a smart idea. It's rarely a smart idea in general to draft for need, especially when you're a rebuilding team like Chicago. Javon Dexter, who was picked 53rd, projected to go 72nd. Tyreek Stevenson was picked 54th, projected to go 69th. Zach Pickens, projected to go 64th, ended up going 90th, or projected to go 93rd, ended up going 64th. So a couple picks I like later on in the draft. Tyler Scott and Roschon Johnson were actually kind of steals in this draft class, but as a whole, it was again, a slight L for me for them.
Yeah, I don't think anything I said there was unreasonable or horrible there. So no, what are you doing drafting Sam Laporta take here? So yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so those were my, that was my reaction to my analysis. I think for the most part, I would say that my analysis was all right? Like I'll give it like a B- here perhaps. I had some mostly I think opinions that have held on to be true, but a couple that were horrendous, which brings the average down. I don't know what you think about all of that, but yeah, thought it'd be kind of a fun video. Hey, I give a lot of opinions. I have to criticize other people. I should have to criticize myself as well, right? That's part of how the job works. So this is a fun video to make. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. Oh, I should have done it where I do it. Can I get
and the Packers
past me to also say that here?
In my opinion, but what do I know? I'm just a guy on YouTube. So let me know what you know in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.